Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm sharing a story that literally changed my entire life. A story about love, sacrifice, and one moment that I'll never forget. My name's Ethan, and this is the story of how my son's single word turned my world upside down. 3 years. For 3 full years, my son Mason didn't have a father. It was just me. Every single day, every single night, it was just the two of us against the world. And I'm not gonna lie to you, it was hard. So damn hard. Every night before bed, Mason would ask me the one question that broke my heart every single time. Dad, where's my daddy? And I never had the right answer. How do you explain to a 3-year-old that the man who made him just didn't want us? My name's Ethan Parker, and I was a struggling graphic designer working at this small design firm in downtown Seattle. Nothing fancy, nothing special. Just trying to make ends meet, you know? But 5 years ago, I met someone who changed everything. His name was Cameron. Cameron Sterling. And he was literally the most beautiful, powerful, intimidating man I'd ever seen in my entire life. Tall, built like he hit the gym every single day, this commanding presence that just made you feel small. But he wasn't just physically impressive. He was a businessman, a CEO. Cameron ran this massive tech company, and he had money, power, and the kind of confidence that came from getting everything he ever wanted. We met at a coffee shop. I remember this so clearly because it was such a random moment. I was working on a design project on my laptop, and he sat down at the table next to mine. Our eyes met for like 2 seconds, and I felt electricity. Real electricity. This Omega instinct just kicked in, and suddenly I couldn't concentrate on anything except him. He approached me first. Can you believe that? This powerful alpha just walked over and asked if he could sit with me. We talked for hours, just hours. And by the end of that night, I was convinced I'd met my soulmate. We spent the next year together. 1 whole year. It was incredible, you guys. He'd pick me up from work, take me to these amazing restaurants I could never afford, and we'd just be together. We kept it a secret from everyone because, the world wasn't always accepting of guys like us. But we didn't care. We had each other, and that was enough. And then everything changed. One day, Cameron came home and his face was just different, cold, distant. He told me his family was pushing him to marry a woman from a powerful family, to keep the Sterling name pure. And even though I could see the conflict in his eyes, I could see that he was choosing them over me. He chose his company. He chose his reputation. He chose his family's legacy. He didn't choose me. I found out I was pregnant 3 weeks after he left me. 3 weeks! And I couldn't tell him. What was the point? He'd already made his choice. He didn't want this life with me. He didn't want our baby. So I made the decision to raise Mason alone. And you know what? For 3 years, I didn't regret it. Mason was my whole world, my reason for everything. He had his father's eyes, these beautiful blue eyes, and his curly dark hair, and sometimes when I looked at him, I could see Cameron so clearly. But I pushed those thoughts away. Mason was mine. just mine. I worked hard. I worked so damn hard to give him a good life. I worked nights at the design firm, freelanced during the day, did whatever I could to make sure Mason had everything he needed. And he did. He had my love, he had my attention, he had everything a kid could want. Or at least I told myself that was enough. But somewhere, deep down, I knew something was missing.
So here's where the story really begins. Mason just turned 3 years old. We were doing good, you know? I had gotten a promotion at work, so money wasn't as tight. I was able to take Mason to coffee shops on weekends, get him his favorite chocolate milk, and just spend quality time with him. It was nice. Simple, but nice. One Friday morning, I got a call from my boss. He told me that we had a huge client coming in to check out our design portfolio. This was a really big deal for the company, and apparently the CEO of the company wanted to personally review our work before they gave us the contract. I was excited, you know? This could mean a promotion. This could mean job security. This could mean a better life for me and Mason. So I took Mason to the office with me. I packed his juice box and his little snack bag, and I told him, "Hey buddy, we're going to my work today. You're gonna hang out in the meeting while Daddy does some really important stuff, okay?" Mason was cool with it. He was always a chill kid like that. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think my entire life was about to change in the next 30 minutes. When we got to the conference room, my boss was already there, setting up for the presentation. He looked nervous, which made me nervous. He was like, "Ethan, this client is huge. This is the Sterling Tech Company. If we land this contract, it could change everything for us." Sterling Tech. That name hit me like a punch to the gut. But I didn't say anything. It's a big company. That doesn't necessarily mean... I started setting up my designs. I had worked on this project for weeks. A hotel chain redesign, luxury, modern, clean lines, everything that would appeal to high-end clientele. I was proud of this work. My boss went out to greet the client. And then he walked in. Cameron Sterling. I'm serious, you guys. My hands literally started shaking. I couldn't breathe. I tried to make myself small, tried to not exist in that room. This man, who I loved so deeply, who I gave so much to, who rejected me and our son. He was walking into my office like I was nobody. He looked exactly the same, maybe even more intimidating than I remembered. He was wearing this perfectly tailored charcoal suit, and his face had that cold corporate expression that I recognized from those business news articles I definitely didn't look up over the years. Definitely not. I started setting up my designs. I had worked on this project for weeks. A hotel chain redesign, luxury, modern, clean lines, everything that would appeal to high-end clientele. I was proud of this work. My boss went out to greet the client. And then he walked in. Cameron Sterling. I'm serious, you guys. My hands literally started shaking. I couldn't breathe. I tried to make myself small, tried to not exist in that room. This man, who I loved so deeply, who I gave so much to, who rejected me and our son. He was walking into my office like I was nobody. He looked exactly the same, maybe even more intimidating than I remembered. He was wearing this perfectly tailored charcoal suit, and his face had that cold corporate expression that I recognized from those business news articles I definitely didn't look up over the years. Definitely not. I started presenting my work, and I was trying so hard to be professional, to not show how affected I was by Cameron's presence. I talked about the design philosophy, the inspiration, the way every element was meant to create this feeling of comfort mixed with luxury. Cameron was asking questions, hard questions, challenging questions, and I could tell he was testing me, testing my knowledge, my passion, my commitment to the work. The color palette, he said, it feels safe, but where's the edge? Where's the innovation? I took a breath and I answered him. The innovation is in the subtlety. A guest shouldn't feel like they're in a hotel. They should feel like they're home, but a better version of home, a version where everything is taken care of for them. That's where the magic is. For a moment, just a moment, I saw something flicker in Cameron's eyes, like maybe he recognized something in me, maybe he remembered. Then it was gone. Acceptable, he said, and he looked away. That word, acceptable, absolutely destroyed me inside. Acceptable, like I was just okay, mediocre, forgettable. The presentation wound down. Cameron's team took some photos of the designs, and I thought that was it. I thought he'd leave, and I'd never see him again, and I could go back to my life with Mason and just pretend this never happened. But then, Mason had to go to the bathroom. Of course he did. I took him to the bathroom, and when we came back, Cameron was still in the conference room. He was looking out the window, probably checking his phone or whatever. And Mason, he just let go of my hand. He was curious, you know? He was 3 years old, and this tall, impressive man in a suit probably looked like a superhero or something to him. "Hey, mister, you're really tall, like the superhero in my cartoons." I panicked. I literally panicked. I ran to get him, but Cameron was already looking at him. And I watched in real time as Cameron's entire face changed. He was looking at Mason, really looking at him, and his cold corporate expression just cracked. It broke apart like he was looking at something impossible, something that shouldn't exist. "What's your name, buddy?" Cameron asked him, and his voice was completely different. It was soft, gentle. I'd never heard him sound like that before. "I'm Mason. I'm 3 years old," my son answered with this innocent enthusiasm that broke my heart. Cameron reached out and helped Mason stand up properly, and he was just staring at him, staring at Mason like he was looking at the most important thing in the world. I could see people noticing. Phones were coming out. But Cameron didn't care. He was completely focused on Mason. "You have," he started to say, but then he looked at me. His eyes went from soft to absolutely completely furious. The color literally drained from his face. "We need to talk," Cameron said to me, his voice cold and controlled.
I left Mason with my boss, who looked absolutely confused about what was happening. I followed Cameron to his private office in the building next door. He had an office there. Of course he did. We didn't say anything until we were inside, and the door was completely closed. Cameron went to the window, his back to me. His shoulders were tense. He wasn't moving. "How long?" he asked. His voice was so quiet, I almost didn't hear him. "How long what?" I asked, even though I knew exactly what he meant. "How long were you pregnant? How long have you been hiding this from me?" I couldn't lie. I couldn't pretend anymore. 3 years. Mason is 3 years old, Cameron. He turned around, and I could see the fury in his eyes. Pure fury mixed with something else. Something like devastation. 3 years? He walked toward me, his voice rising. "Ethan, he's my son. Do you understand what that means? My Omega blood runs through him, and you kept him from me for 3 years? You left me!" I yelled back, my own emotions exploding. "You had me. You told me you loved me. You made me believe we had a future. And then you walked away. You chose your company, your reputation, your family's expectations. You chose everything except me. Because I was scared, Cameron shouted. I was terrified. My family, my company, the world, everything told me that being with you was a mistake, that I should be ashamed, and I was weak. I let them convince me that leaving you was the right thing to do. And now? I asked. Now that you know about Mason? What? You think you can just waltz back into our lives? Cameron stepped closer to me. We were face to face now. That boy is my son. My alpha blood runs through his veins. Whether you like it or not, I am going to be in his life, and I'm going to be his father. That's not up for negotiation. I could feel the alpha dominance rolling off him in waves. It was overwhelming. It was terrifying. It was everything I remembered about him. You don't get to just show up and claim him, I said, but my voice was weak now. I was losing the fight. Watch me, Cameron said. And Ethan, you should have told me. You should have come to me. Yes, I left. Yes, I was a coward. But I would have come back for my child. I would have moved mountains for him if I'd known. I believed him. Deep down, I knew it was true. What do you want? I asked. I want to know him. I want to be part of his life. I want to be his father. And I want you to stop keeping him out of his world. I was quiet for a long time. Too long. He doesn't know who you are, I finally said. Then we'll introduce him. Properly. The next day, Cameron sent a car to pick me and Mason up. Mason was so excited. Dad, where are we going? We're going to meet someone really important, buddy. We went to Cameron's penthouse. Of course he had a penthouse. It was this gorgeous place overlooking the Seattle skyline. It was everything I could have never given Mason. Cameron was waiting by the window when we arrived. He was dressed casually, just a black t-shirt and jeans, but he still looked powerful, still looked like the man who ran the world. Mason, I said, kneeling down to his level. His face was completely soft. I had never seen him like this before. Hey there, Mason, he said gently. I've heard a lot about you. Mason was shy, like he always was with new people. But there was something about Cameron that made him comfortable. Some kind of instinctual recognition. You're really tall, Mason said quietly. I know, buddy. You want to see something cool? You want to see the city from up here? Mason nodded, and Cameron reached out his hand. Mason took it. I watched my son hold hands with his father for the first time, and I felt something inside me. Shift. Change. Like the universe was finally correcting itself. Cameron took Mason to the window and pointed out all the different buildings. See that building over there? That's where I work. And when you're older, if you want, you can come visit me there. Mason's eyes were wide. Really? Really? Cameron said. Watching them together, it was beautiful and painful at the same time, because I realized I had been wrong. I had been so angry at Cameron for leaving, so convinced that he didn't deserve to be part of Mason's life, but I had been punishing them both. Mason deserved to know his father, and Cameron deserved to know his son. We stayed there for hours. Cameron showed Mason around the penthouse. They watched cartoons together. Cameron even made Mason snacks. And honestly, I was shocked that this powerful CEO knew how to make a decent PB&J sandwich. When it was time to leave, Mason didn't want to go. He wrapped his little arms around Cameron and hugged him tight. Cameron held him like Mason was the most precious thing in the world, and I could see the emotion in his eyes. This man who was supposed to be cold and corporate, he was breaking apart from my son. "Can I see him again?" Cameron asked me as we were leaving. "Yeah," I said quietly. "Yeah, you can." "Ethan," he said, and there was something vulnerable in his voice, something I hadn't heard in so long. "I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, but I'm not leaving this time. I'm not leaving him. I'm not leaving you." I didn't say anything. I wasn't ready to believe that yet. After that first meeting, Cameron became a regular part of our lives. Every single week, he'd pick Mason up, every Sunday without fail. He'd take him to the park, he'd buy him whatever he wanted, ice cream, toys, books. He was making up for 3 years of missed time, and he was doing it all at once. But it wasn't just about the material stuff. It was real. It was genuine. Cameron would spend hours with Mason just talking to him, teaching him stuff. One time, he brought Mason to his office, this massive, impressive corporate space, and introduced him to his entire team as my son, Mason. The way he said it, with so much pride, with so much ownership, it was clear that Mason meant everything to him. His employees were shocked. No one even knew Cameron had a kid, but they smiled because you could see the love. And Mason was thriving. He was so happy. He'd ask me every single day, "When's Cameron coming? When will I see Dad again?" Dad? He started calling him Dad without me even prompting it. It just came naturally. Things were changing for me too. Cameron would sometimes stay over after dropping Mason off. We'd have dinner together. We'd talk, really talk, about our lives, about the past 3 years, about what we were both feeling. "I never stopped loving you," Cameron told me one night. We were on his penthouse balcony, looking out at the city lights. Not for a single day. I was an idiot for leaving. I was a coward, but I never stopped. "I was so angry at you," I said. "For so long, I was so angry." "I know, and you had every right to be. But Ethan, I'm here now, and I'm not leaving. Not this time, not ever." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly. But there was still this part of me that was scared. What if he got scared again? What if his family pressured him? What if I let myself trust him and he left again? I couldn't go through that. I couldn't put Mason through that. But then something happened that changed everything. One night, Mason asked Cameron a question that absolutely broke him. We were all having dinner together at Cameron's penthouse. Mason was eating his spaghetti and making a total mess, as 3-year-olds do, and he looked up at Cameron. "Cameron," he asked, "will you always come back?" The fork Cameron was holding literally fell out of his hand and clattered onto his plate. He looked at Mason with this expression, this complete and utter vulnerability, and I realized that Cameron was no longer the cold businessman. He was a father. He was Mason's father. "Yes, buddy," Cameron said, his voice shaky with emotion. "I will always come back, because you're my son, and that means I'll always be there for you, always. Even if I have to fight the entire world to do it, you're my responsibility, you're my family, and I don't abandon my family." Mason smiled and went back to his spaghetti like he hadn't just said something that literally changed the trajectory of Cameron's life. But Cameron looked at me,
and I could see the tears in his eyes. This powerful, cold businessman was crying because his 3-year-old son asked him to stay. In that moment, I knew. I knew that Cameron meant it. I knew that he wasn't going anywhere. I knew that he had finally grown up to understand what was really important in life. It wasn't his company. It wasn't his reputation. It was us. It was his family. My heart opened up to him again in a way I didn't think was possible.
3 weeks later, Cameron did something that completely changed our lives. He texted me, "Take Mason to the coffee shop near your office tomorrow at 2 p.m. Trust me." I was confused, but I did it. The next day, I took Mason to our regular coffee shop, the one we went every Saturday. It was busy, busier than usual, which I thought was weird, but I didn't think too much about it. Mason ordered his usual, chocolate milk with extra whipped cream. I got a coffee. We were sitting at our usual table when Cameron walked in. He looked absolutely immaculate. Designer suit, perfectly styled hair, the CEO energy turned up to like 1,000%. Everyone's heads turned when he walked in. This powerful, attractive man just commands attention, you know? He walked straight to Mason and knelt down. "Hey, buddy," he said, and he kissed Mason on the forehead. "Cameron, I missed you!" Mason jumped up and hugged him. Cameron held him tight, and I noticed people were watching. I noticed phones were coming out. I noticed cameras. This was deliberate. Cameron had planned this. Cameron sat down at our table, but he didn't order anything. He looked at his phone. "Ethan, I need to do something," he said, "and I need you to trust me, okay?" Before I could answer, he started recording a live video on his Instagram. He had like 10 million followers. Everyone was about to see this. "Hi, everyone," he said to the camera. His voice was clear and confident, and something else, something possessive. "I wanted to take a moment to introduce you to the most important people in my life." I literally had no idea what he was doing. My heart was pounding. "This," he said, pointing the camera at Mason, "is my son. His name is Mason. Mason is 3 years old, and he is absolutely everything to me. I missed the first 3 years of his life, and that's a regret I will carry with me forever. But I'm going to make sure that every single day moving forward, he knows that he is loved, that he is wanted, that he is mine." There was something so intensely possessive about the way he said that. The alpha in him was coming out. "To the world," Cameron continued, "I want to be clear. Mason Sterling is my son, and there's nothing I wouldn't do to protect him, nothing I wouldn't sacrifice for him. He is my priority. He is my reason. He is my everything." By this point, everyone in the coffee shop was watching. Phones were definitely recording. This was going viral in real time. "And for Ethan," Cameron looked directly at me, "thank you for keeping him safe. Thank you for loving him when I was too much of a coward to step up. I'm here now, and I'm going to do better." He ended the live stream. And that's when it happened. Mason, my sweet, innocent 3-year-old son, looked up at Cameron with so much love and trust, and he asked the question that would change everything. "Can I call you Daddy, like the other kids have daddies?" The entire coffee shop went completely silent. Cameron's face, it was the most emotional I'd ever seen him. His entire body went still. "Yeah, buddy," he said, and his voice was completely broken. "You can call me Daddy.
You can always call me Daddy, forever." Mason wrapped his little arms around Cameron's neck and hugged him. And Cameron, this powerful, cold corporate alpha, he put his face on Mason's shoulder and he cried. He literally cried in front of everyone, in front of his business associates, in front of complete strangers. He cried because his son had just claimed him, just made him a father, publicly, just made him family. I was crying too. That one word, Daddy, changed our entire world. Within an hour, the video had over 5 million views. The hashtag #MyDaddy was trending. News outlets were picking up the story. This powerful CEO's emotional declaration of love for his son was all over the internet. And I realized that Cameron wasn't just claiming Mason. He was claiming me too. He was telling the world, these are my people. These are my family. And anyone who has a problem with that can deal with me. It was possessive and beautiful and terrifying.
Everything changed after that coffee shop moment. Cameron wasn't just a part of our lives anymore. He became the center of it. "You're moving in with me," he said the next day. Not a question, a statement. "Cameron, that's a huge step." "It's not a request, Ethan. You and Mason, you're both mine. My Omega, my son, my family. And I'm not letting you guys live in that small apartment anymore. You're coming to the penthouse." I wanted to resist. I wanted to tell him that I could take care of myself, that I didn't need him. But the truth was, I did. We did. And more importantly, Mason deserved this. Mason deserved to have his father, deserved to have a complete family. So we moved in. And Cameron became intense. So intensely possessive and protective that sometimes it scared me. If any man so much as looked at Mason in the grocery store, Cameron would position himself between them. He'd make his alpha presence known. It was clear, this child belongs to me. One time, a guy at the park tried to help Mason with the monkey bars, and Cameron literally marked the guy, alpha to alpha, right there in public, made it clear that Mason was under his protection. For me, it was different. Cameron wanted to mark me, permanently. He'd touch my neck and talk about it constantly. "Ethan, let me mark you. Let me put my seal on you, so the entire world knows that you're mine, so that I never lose you again, so that I never have to feel this fear again." I kept saying no, but every day it got harder to resist. Because the truth was, I loved him. I had never stopped loving him. And the version of Cameron that came back, he was better. He was whole. He was willing to be vulnerable, to be broken, to put my and Mason's needs above everything else. So one night, I said yes. Cameron marked me, properly, and it was the most intense experience of my life. It was possession and love and surrender all mixed into one. And in that moment, as I felt his alpha mark settling into my skin, I realized something. That one word, Daddy, it didn't just change Mason's life. It changed Cameron's life. It changed my life. It changed everything. 3 years ago, I thought my life was complete. It was just me and Mason against the world. I thought we didn't need anyone else. But I was wrong. Cameron Sterling came back into our lives, and he turned what I thought was a perfect life into an actual family. He turned obligation into obsession. He turned my heart being closed off into my heart being completely open to him.
That day in the coffee shop, when Mason called him Daddy, it was the most powerful moment of my life. Because that one word changed everything. It changed us into a family. It changed Cameron from someone I could never trust again into someone I would trust with my entire life. It changed everything. And even though Cameron's possessiveness sometimes scares me, even though he's intense and controlling and absolutely will not let anyone near Mason or me, I know he does it out of love. He does it because he's terrified of losing us again. He does it because one word from his son, Daddy, showed him what really matters in life. And that's the thing about love, you guys. It can completely destroy you, but it can also completely heal you. Cameron Sterling destroyed me when he left, but his son's love, and eventually his own love for me again, healed me in ways I never thought possible. So yeah, that's my story. That's the story of how one word changed everything. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe for more stories like this. And hey, if you've experienced something like this, a moment that changed your entire life, drop it in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.